You're out there in front of a lot of people, whether it's agents, whether it's conferences, wherever you're going. Are you judging people on the sneakers they're wearing? Welcome to this week's episode of Hey Homegirl. Hey Homegirls, on this week's episode, we have the very inspirational Katie Day, leader of the MOVEMETOTX team, powered by the Real Brokerage. Welcome to Houston, Texas, where the barbecue is banging and the real estate landscape is competitive. I have been slightly obsessed with Katie ever since I began following her career a few years ago. From her amazing smile to her unstoppable work ethic, Katie just makes everyone around her a little bit better. On this week's episode, we are chatting all things real estate, the Real Brokerage, her sneaker obsession, and where the market is headed in 2024. So let's jump in. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's episode of Hey Homegirl. I'm so excited to have Katie Day from MOVEMETOTX with us. Hey, Katie.
What's going on?
Nothing. Does everybody call you Katie Day? Because I feel like every time I say Katie Day, I have to say the whole thing.
It is something that seems to happen a lot. I was talking to someone in coaching, right, in the Tom Ferry world, and like they're saying like Mary Jet is another one that you tend to say her full name. And I'm like, if I'm ever in company with Mary Jet, I know that's good company to be in. So I don't know. It's I guess it's kind of always been a thing.
Very cool. Well, you are a good company to be in. Ever since I got into Tom Ferry coaching, I feel like you just encompass everything that women should be. You are an icon to me, which is pretty cool because I don't say that about a ton of people.
Now I'm like nervous for this podcast. Oh man, that's high shoes, big shoes to fill, high bar to reach. So I hope I don't disappoint anyone on today's podcast, and I appreciate your kind words. So we'll see how this goes.
You won't disappoint. But you said shoes. You brought up shoes. I have to talk about the shoes for a second. You're out there in front of a lot of people, whether it's agents, whether it's conferences, wherever you're going. Are you judging people on the sneakers they're wearing?
I don't judge anyone on the shoes they're wearing. Like, you know, that's my thing, but if it's not your thing, like, I don't care if you wear them or not. It's just something that I enjoy.
You really enjoy sneakers.
No, I mean, and we were joking around when we saw each other in Mass, right? I was up on the East Coast for a little while earlier this year, and like, you know, some of our common friends were like, but like, you know, I don't know what to do. I'll provide you with some options, right? Like if you want to wear sneakers and don't know where to go, I can help you out with that based on like style and what colors you like and things like that. But like, no, I think people that wear and actually spend a decent amount, invest, I'm using, my air quotes there, but people that spend a decent amount of money on shoes and sneakers and stuff, like, that's such a small portion of the world. So I can't judge people on the shoes they wear.
I love that. I love to hear that. But you do judge them on their iPhones.
But that's just you. And really most people in general, like if you're listening to this on an Android right now, it's probably like also listening to it with like corded headphones. So like, I just, do Bluetooth headphones even work with Androids?
Yes. They do
all right.
that technology. And they now do have noise canceling ones, which I've heard is quite the thing. So
yeah, I'm just happy that you got an iPhone. I could care less what shoes you wear. I'm just very happy to now text message with you. Cause like before it was just like, I wouldn't really want to. And now, something that we can be friends. So I'm happy for it.
And I love that there are women out there such as yourself that are making sneakers trendy for everybody again, because when you're doing our job, you're going into houses every single day and you're on your feet all the time. I just think it's great that we can normalize comfort and style all together at once. And you're one of those amazing people that does that.
I remember when I first got into real estate, I did wear heels, right, for the first couple months or whatever. And like, it was two specific times. And once I remember I had to like jump over a fence to go into a backyard to get a key. And I was like, all right, I'm done with heels. Like, yeah, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So I started wearing like cowboy boots for a while. And then the sneakers have been a more recent thing in my life. It's not like it's been a long-term thing, but yeah.
Well, I just think that it's amazing that you're helping to kind of make that cool and trendy, because I worry when I wear heels, if I'm going to scratch somebody's wood floors, if I'm going to do some sort of damage, and I don't get around to them that easily. So I like the women in sneakers trend. It's definitely cool for me. All right, let's talk about real estate. You're just getting back from Iman. Your brokerage got an amazing award. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's interesting. So Real's been around since like 2014, right? And that's a long time in the brokerage world, kind of. But has recently like picked up kind of momentum as of like, 2020, 2021 and things like that. So it's cool seeing the work that's been going on behind the scenes for a very long time being recognized on national stages. But it's funny because it's like you go from like kind of being the company that no one knows about to now like people know about it. So it's interesting, right? To see how things change over time. And it's cool to just be a part of something that's growing and changing, and that leadership is trying to, put the consumer first and put the agent first, which isn't always the case. So
yeah. When I first broke off from my small independent I had jumped right into owning a brokerage and I opened a Remax franchise. And I did so 15 years ago because then that was the most agent focused that was out there. And so for me, I love analyzing different brokerage models. And I just think what everything with Real is doing is so innovative and kind of sort of, would you consider it the disruptor in our marketplace right now? Because I think that's cool. But
Yeah. I think, people always use that word to describe things. Like I definitely think, anyone that's doing things a little bit differently than kind of the status quo, that's something that they refer to. And Remax was totally that, right? Before.
100%, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that could be a good characteristic. We're just trying to sell houses and be a better brokerage than you may have options, or be a better option than you may already be at, kind of thing.
Which is so cool. And I had watched a podcast or I think a YouTube video with you. And one of the things that you were talking about was one of the that makes Real special is when you're in a brick and mortar brokerage, you are stuck with the people that you're stuck with every single day, whether you get along with them or not. And the nice part about having a cloud-based brokerage is you can be around so many different kind of people and you can really choose who you're aligning yourself with, who you're learning with, who your mentors are, that you might not get in a traditional brokerage sense, which I thought was cool.
For sure.
A good way to look at it. So you're all over the place. You're visiting other states. You're helping other people grow their businesses. What are 3 or 4 things that you think every real estate agent needs to have right now headed into 2024?
All right. So 3 or 4 things that they need. I think that the biggest thing is they need to have a plan to regularly communicate with their past clients if they have them, right? If you're brand new, obviously you don't have those, but past clients and then sphere and people that you know. And I think too often that plan is like, I'm going to call Sarah and see if Sarah knows anyone that wants to buy or sell real estate, right? I call you and I haven't talked in months or years. And hey, so I just got into real estate and want to know if you knew anyone that was looking to buy or sell. And you're just like, dude, I haven't talked to you in forever. Like, that's kind of weird, right? And so I've always been of the idea that you should call and catch up and have conversations and check in on the family and how their work is going, what they're doing for fun. Back to school is happening right now. So how's that? They have kids, like how's that going? And just like be a human and the business will come. So I think focusing on past clients and sphere and having a regular plan of communication, right? Having a regular plan of providing equity reviews for their home, whether or not you sold it to them. And just different things that you can do to add value to them. And if they have real estate needs, like chances are they will come to you. But like after you've built a base of value at that point, then you have the right to ask for business. But I have no right, if I haven't spoken to you at all, to call and ask you to send me business. It's scummy.
So thankful that you said that because everybody is saying, oh, you just got to call your past clients. Well, you can't just call once. You have to rebuild that relationship if you've lost touch with that. So
so I think that's like one of the basics that we miss a lot. People are always like, when can I get more leads? How can I have more leads? What do I need to do to get more leads? And it's like, you have a ton of leads in your database or in your phone if you don't have a database or whatever it may be. You just start there and you talk to those people regularly and, kind of build that cadence of communication. So phone calls, text messages, emails, home equity reviews, and all of that, birthday messages, if you've sold them home anniversary messages, and like, you're probably going to hit then almost, 8 to 10 or 12 touches a year at that point. So past clients and sphere would be number 1 for me. Number 2 would be coming up with a plan of lead generation. I think for newer agents, that should be open houses. If I could go back in time, I would have done an open house every weekend, but I also would have stuck in one neighborhood, right? When I was a brand new agent, I did open houses all over Houston. And like, I didn't know the neighborhoods. I was driving all over town. And like, looking back on it now, I would have done them in the same neighborhood every single weekend. So you just kept seeing my signs.
I think that's important, especially if you're in a larger geographic footprint like you are.
Yeah.
I'm in a rural area. So for me, having to expand that footprint is a little bit different, but for you to be able to maximize the concentration, or for any agent that's in a bigger city, that's a really great piece of advice.
And then number 3, so sphere and past clients and communicating with them, open houses, and like having an actual plan to those. And then number 3 would be building a brand, I think is very important. And so that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I was just with an agent this week in Vegas that they've built their entire presence and brand on Facebook, right? And like, in posting photos with stories of like, hey, this is what's happening in my world. Hey, this is what's happening with buyers and sellers. Hey, this is what's happening with different things in my life. Right. And like the things that resonate the most are like stories about like her family and her kids and her husband and her dogs. And like, there's a real estate story every now and then. For me, it's Instagram. For others, it's TikTok. For some people, it's YouTube or a combination of those. But figuring out like where your target audiences, where your past clients are, to have some sort of regular communication with them, and then building that brand on a platform where they're going to be.
Excellent advice. And knowing the platforms that work best in your marketplace. So good.
Because I think that, you go to a conference and you hear someone talk about TikTok, or you hear someone talk about whatever, and you're like, okay, so I've got to do this. So like you start doing it, but you don't do anything well. And so like, I always like, especially for newer agents, coach them on like, okay, what's the one platform? Okay, let's start there. Once you're doing that regularly and have like, something that's sustainable, then like, okay, then add in YouTube, then add in TikTok, then add in whatever. But focusing on online today, like probably isn't going to happen.
So let's talk about your brand for a second, Move Me to Texas. It is, to me, one of the most memorable brands that I've ever seen at any of the conferences I've ever gone to. A couple of years ago, you gave out a little area flip book. Do you remember the small black flip book that you did? So it was like a little pocket guide, little flip book of Move Me to Texas, and it had just stats about your marketplace and a couple of things about different businesses. And that was one piece of marketing material that I got from that conference that I still remember, I think like 4 years later. It was just so good the way it encompassed what you do, how you love on your community, and what makes your community special, and everything with your branding is fluid to that, I think. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We're not quite finished yet, but as the homegirl of your hometown, I would love to pass the mic to you so that you can share your story and some of your secrets with the Homegirl community. To apply, please go to howtobehomegirl.com in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean, we realized that a lot of the buyers that we get are coming in from out of state, but obviously we work with a lot of buyers and sellers that are already here as well. But like one of the biggest things for us is community, right? And like what we can do to connect with business owners and community people in our community, right? As well as focusing in on, if you were moving here, what would be the things that you would want to know about? How can we better highlight the area and things like that for you?
You have a pretty good sized team, correct? How many agents?
We're at about 15 agents on the team, and then a couple admin staff as well.
Women looking to start a team, what do you think the most important hire is?
I think the most important hire, or the first hire that you should focus in on, would be some sort of admin support. Too many agents are super busy. And so the first hire that they make is an agent that they just send leads to. And like my expectation would be like, hey, Sarah, here's a lead, take it, and then close. And I get pissed at you, but I gave you no training, no direction, and there's no system of like A, B, C, D. This is how you deal with the lead. And so in hiring a, admin of some sort, or a transaction coordinator or something to help on the administrative side, then you're able to start creating SOPs and creating the if this, then that stuff, and the ABCD, steps to helping a buyer with a home, and getting those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. And then once you have that, then hiring an agent is a lot easier, because you have systems to show them of like, hey, when a lead comes in, this is how you call them. This is how you leave a voicemail. This is how you show them a home, and like in tedious detail, as opposed to me just being like, hey, Sarah, go close this, and not giving any direction.
Was it easy for you to give up the control aspects of your job to your support staff so that you could do what you really love?
I mean, it's still not like I try really hard to give direction and instruction, and then circle back to ensure it was done, kind of thing. Or, please, provide me the link when this is complete, or whatever the, end result should be. And then I'm sitting there like, refresh. So I'm bad at that. Also the type of person that like, my disc personality, for those that follow that, is a CD personality. Most people in real estate are like IS or ID like type personalities. So they're way more outgoing. They don't care about the details. I'm very detail oriented, and also a control freak. So it's tough for me, but I'm learning. Once the first really, really good TC that we had, I realized I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not as good at paperwork as I thought I was. Like, she's really good. So I need to like just concede control, because like if I do things now, I screw them up. So
Yeah. And you're giving yourself that grace to be able to learn and work through it, which is important because I think so many agents will hire the wrong person and then say, oh no, this was a horrible idea. I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it anyway. And there isn't scalability in that.
Well, and like 9 times out of 10, it wasn't the wrong person. It was that you didn't give the right instruction to them. And like similar to me saying like, hey, Sarah, here's a lead, go sell them a house.
Yeah.
Like you have to give tedious detail when you're training someone. And like one thing that I always do is like, if I'm going over something with you, like I'm going to share screen and do it via Zoom. So whether we're in 2 different places like we are right now, or you're sitting next to me here in the office, I'm going to pull up a Zoom screen and screen record so that you have something to go back to and watch. Because I've always found that like, even if I gave you steps 1 through 75, like you're going to miss a few.
Mhm.
And like with a video, then you have something to go back to be like, oh, well, what did you say happens after step 43? Like, and you have that, as a video where you're clicking through it, and that generally minimizes questions and gives someone something to go back to and reference.
And then it's recorded so that if you ever have to duplicate that process again or train another person, it's there. So excellent advice. Awesome advice. Good. So let's talk about Houston. The market's pretty good there, right?
Yeah. The market year over year is obviously, a little bit slower this year than it was last, but we still have a lot of people moving to Texas, and, we're still busy, just obviously not as busy as the past, we're in 2023 now. 2021 and 2022 were really busy up until interest rates started increasing, but, still trucking along down here.
Does your office handle like a special niche area of Houston, or are you pretty much the entire city?
So we service basically everything within a 45-ish minute radius of downtown Houston. As we've grown, we've added agents in kind of the different suburbs. So the way that Houston is like you have downtown city center, and then you have highways that kind of are circular around, the city. And now there's 3 actual loops around the city. And so we handle like all of that. And we've hired, in the Northeast and in the North, in the Northwest and the South. So we've tried to continue to grow to be able to assist people. Cause it's like, if you've never been here before, you're just like, I want to be in a good school district. I want to be near this, amenity or hospital or community or school. And like, other than that, we don't care. And we're like, you're going to need to come down here because that's way too broad, right? There's just so many different neighborhoods and things like that.
And I think we see it a lot, when we're looking at referral requests on some of the different platforms we're on, and people are like, oh, I need an agent in New York. I need an agent in Texas. You got to narrow it down because it's even within the city of Houston or Dallas or other areas, they're just too broad of spaces for one agent or one team to know everything about it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
All right. So as we finish up, as we talked about before, I always ask for one piece of empowering advice to kind of give other females coming into the industry or just getting started. And you've been really passionate about this, especially over the course of the last year. I've kind of watched you elevate your status and sharing and giving back to the communities you're in. So you have your mastermind. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, women in real estate represent a significant portion. It's normally, I think, like anywhere between 60 to 70% of the industry are women. But then when you look at most executive boards and you look at stages and you look at different things, where you're elevating people, it's like all like old white dudes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, like in looking at that, we've got to do something different. And I think part of that is finding voices in real estate and elevating those people. Right. But then also like just having conversation around that, which I think it's just something that like we don't always do. Right. Like, so that's something that's been important to me. And I think is something that we should need to continue to work on as an industry.
And normalizing the fact that none of us know it all. This is an industry that's shifting all of the time, and there's so much to learn. And to be able to share your knowledge with other people who are just starting out and that might not have the access to mentors that you might have gotten or that I might have gotten, I think is so important. And then earlier this year, you had a women's conference, correct?
In a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was in Colorado. Are you going to do that again next year?
Yeah. It's, I'm not sure if we'll do that or if we'll do something similar. The events are always interesting and you learn from them every time. Do like a marketing event, and I attend so many. So you just got to figure out like timing and location and different stuff like that. So, we'll definitely be doing similar things, so stay tuned.
All right. I definitely will, because that was like a back to something else that I was going to, and I was sorry to miss it. But I just think that everything that you're doing is really impactful and inspiring. And so I hope that you just keep doing it.
I appreciate that.
So what's one piece of advice you can give our listeners before we sign off?
I think Man, I have so many thoughts, but you mentioned that not everyone may have access to mentors or people that can help them to shape their career or whatever it may be. And I think when I look back on my career, there's like inflection points of like times that I met people or times that, I got involved in something and things like that. And I was talking to someone the other day because at a Coldwell Banker event back in 2018, I actually met Tom Ferry for the first time. And they were like laughing. They were like, because they saw a post that was like, oh, Katie was like nervous to meet Tom Ferry, this, that, and the other. Right now, like I know him and been in his coaching world for a few years and things like that. And it's like, I remember that point in my life, how nervous I was to meet him. Right. And so I think that like but now looking back on it, I'm like, I know him and like I saw him, I'd like give him a high five and like, what's up? And we would have a conversation, like know things about each other's lives and things like that kind of thing. Right. But I think that you shouldn't be afraid to ask people for either advice or mentorship or whatever it may be. Right. I wouldn't call you and say, hey, Sarah, can I pick your brain? I'd be very specific in what my ask is. I see that you're doing this. I would love to learn more about that. Can I buy a cup of coffee, send you a Starbucks gift card, and can we hop on a 30-minute Zoom? Right. And like by having a specific ask and knowing like what I want from you, right, you'd be like, oh, like, of course, let's do this. Right. But if I'm just like, hey, Sarah, can I pick your brain? You're going to be like, well, this seems weird. What do you want? So I would always just be specific in what your ask is, but I would never be afraid to like reach out to someone, you see how you may be able to learn from them or something like that.
Did you go to the Phil M. Jones training on exactly what to say?
I did not. Similar to you saying like, at a certain point, you have to pick and choose what you're going to do. That was one that I couldn't fit in.
A section of that he talks about later in the day. And that really resonated with me because sometimes we all get in front of an unbelievably smart person and the room's quiet. If you have any questions and the room goes quiet, people don't think about what to say beforehand. And so I think that just like you said, if we can understand that we are getting these opportunities to be in front of these people that might know so much, whether it's on a Zoom call or a mastermind call on Facebook, or you're going to a conference, really think about the questions you have and understand that probably at least 5 other people in the room or 100 other people in the room have the same exact question and are too scared to ask it.
For sure. Well, that's the entire Phil Jones thing is like worst time to think about what you're going to say is when you're saying it. And that's 99 times out of 100 what you're doing. And yeah.
So good. Well, thank you for sharing this time with our listeners. I very much appreciate it. And maybe I'll see you next week in Texas.
I will be here. No, at Summit. I will see you in Dallas at Summit. I'm super excited. I love that it's in Texas because it's super easy for me to get there. Yeah, looking forward to it for sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben, for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you later.